Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 21st of our podcasts, Phil Walter's Antarctic Expeditions. This one is a more poignant and emotional one because it regards the homecoming experience for the intrepid explorers who've been in the dark cold of Antarctica for over a year. So let's take it to the first point of when you realised it's time to go. What was the first signs that you had that it's time to go?
This was Boxing Day 76.
Right.
This was the day the Nella Dan arrived back at the ice edge, very similar to what happened to us. Weather was very similar, very nice. And a bit later in the day, we got our first contact from the outside. We saw 3 choppers come through the air.
So something like out of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, and then within minutes, they're on the chopper deck, down on the ground.
It's like it goes from zero to everything in a very short period of time.
It does.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, there's strangers at our home wandering around in our base, which was no longer our base from that day on.
It must be a funny feeling.
Life changed, never to go back to what it was. And this was the first stage of the transformation of all of us.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the transition in the actual landscape at the time. You know, we're in the middle. Is it the build up to summer? It's sort of everything's warming up. The ice has left, so that tranquil Fishhook Bay is quite tranquil now. It's not full of ice.
Horseshoe Harbour.
Sorry, Horseshoe Harbour. What did I say, Fishhook?
But no, the ice was still in. It was just so fragile at this stage you couldn't walk on it. But the boat was still probably nearly 30 miles out to sea. It couldn't get in.
So just basically sent the choppers in with various supplies, people.
Mail, very important.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
And
that was another thing, of course, we get mail.
Mail?
Apart from the telexes of the day.
Or the whizzes. What do you call the whizzes?
Whizzes. So actually went into the telex, the telegrams.
Okay, so how long does it take then for the Nella Dan to actually get into the harbour?
That was 3 months later.
Oh, okay. So
late February.
So there's just unloading onto the ice and driving in or choppering it in.
Yeah, everything was choppered in. And the aircraft themselves were also unloaded, so that after that phase was done, half the next year's crew came in, all of the summer crew came in.
Yeah, because that's a massive amount of people, isn't it?
That's right. And there was a chopper pilots, there was a Lark operators. The Larks got offloaded as well. But everything else, the main cargo of the boat, stayed on. They'd come from Melbourne, they went back to Freo to pick up the second half of the new crew.
Wow, that seems ridiculous.
And they took half of our crew back with them.
So it's like a ferry trip with the bare essentials that you could get off the boat at that range. And then the big stuff like the diesel, building material and things like that would come on with the second run.
It would. Now, it was already on the boat. It's the most efficient way. So, everything is transformed from having just the usual, I think it was 30 of us. Suddenly there's hosts of people. There'd be something like 80 people wandering around that base.
Your replacement, what was his name?
His name was Kevin Wake Deister, and he came off on that same day, which was Boxing Day 1976.
Just checking.
And so the first thing we did, showed him the ropes, the layout of everything.
You physically would have had to show him the ropes because those blizz lines are ropes, aren't they?
Well, they
when you think about it, yeah.
Fortunately, there was no blizzard that day.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah, over the next few days, I showed him all the equipment, everything. Didn't take long to bring him up to speed because he's already trained.
Yeah.
He actually trained at Mundaring, same as I did.
Mundaring here?
There was a geophysical observatory at Mundaring in those days.
Wow.
And it had the same equipment that we were using down in the Antarctic. That's why he went there to train.
Well, they're pretty elaborate. They just send you across the country to go and do some training on...
That's right.
Well, money's no object, obviously. All right, so you've got this influx of people. You have to readjust the whole thing. You get basically demoted, don't you? You basically become an assistant. But that's the sort of attitude you got when I read your script, is that you were now the number 2.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You train him up. We do some calibrating of equipment with stuff he brought down from Canberra. And then he takes over the base and I just assist. But then I had other jobs to do. I had to prepare for the summer work that I was involved with.
Was it true that you basically volunteered for that summer work? You know, this you just decided to go.
No, it wasn't a decision. It was part of the whole program.
You're required to become part of the summer.
I was required to become, and I was the only one of the winterers to become part of the summer.
Oh, what about the other guys? They're just getting prepared to go home.
No, the other guys, half were being prepared to go home.
Yeah.
There was a number that were already out there who'd been setting up the summer base, and there was a few others that would be involved in the support, and everyone else went about their normal business back at the base.
Yeah, because that's what David said, that, you know, they basically left months before on their bulldozer to get to the starting point.
That's exactly right. They took the Travis, where we take the 3 bulldozers, cart all the stuff and make fuel dumps along the way. It's a big operation.
You're now prepping yourself to go on the summer survey, which starts at Mount King?
Well, it starts at Mawson, because how they did it that year, the boat that was heading back to Freo, I got on that, and they went west up the coast a bit to a place called Ripon Depot in Enderby Land.
Oh, okay.
And dumped me, and I was working with 3 geologists and another geophysicist that all worked for the Bureau of Mineral Resources, as did I.
Yeah. Which was a bit hush-hush when you think about it, because mineral resources, what do we want to know about minerals on Antarctica for?
That was just the name of the department.
I didn't realise that in the sequence that you went back on the boat, went up the coast, west to Enderby Land.
They dumped us off.
With a chopper, or just throw you on the ice?
No, there was a chopper.
Okay.
The boat wasn't far off, we could see it from shore.
Right.
But Ripon Depot was actually between 2 massive glaciers. And both of those glaciers were much bigger than any other glacier in the world. Mm. And it actually...
It's quite a spectacular sight.
It was a spectacular sight. And one of the things we discovered, being between these 2 massive glaciers, tend to focus the sun a bit. Oh. We got sunburn and snow blindness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And being summer, of course the sun's higher, got a lot more oomph in it than normal, and it can really burn you.
Yeah. How far down the coast was that?
No, it only took us a day to get there.
Okay, all right. So you were dumped on. That'd be a great shot to show those massive glaciers if we ever got that.
Well, what happened? They went back to the boat, and the idea was I would spend the next day doing my magnetic readings. Geologists would do their thing. The other geophysicist would do his gravity readings. They'd come in, pick us up and take us to Mount King, which was probably another, 100 k's further.
Further west?
Further inland. Yes.
Okay, so you're at that point, which is near the coast.
Yes.
Where the glaciers are, and then they basically take you inland to Mount King.
Yep. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Of course, the weather closed in, didn't it?
Yeah, of course it did.
We were stuck there for 3 days.
So that means you just pitched the tents and just bunker in for a couple of days?
That's exactly what we did. Of course, eventually the choppers came back. We thought, oh great, they've come to fly us out. So what they did, they flew everything out but us.
Oh, you're the last one, because they were supposed
the last.
You want to chuck in all the gear first and then get all you lot in. So the weather clears, you can hear the sound of the choppers, and you go, yes, we're off on our little jaunt to Mount King. They would have had a lot of stuff to take to Mount King.
Yeah, so there was some stuff that they dumped there that had to all go in, and there was radio communications, all things happening. So after having 3 days of nothing happening, all of a sudden there's all activity, and everybody was at Ripon Depot doing stuff before we finally got our trip into Mount King.
Yeah. So was that an exciting trip? You know, it's flying in the choppers again.
It was good to be up there. And because we thought, at last, it was getting a bit boring where we were. Especially there was whiteouts for quite a lot of the time. And very boring. You don't even get any scenery when it's like that. But we got into Mount King, and then we began the summer survey work. And this is the next big change. I'm doing something entirely different to what I've been doing for the past year. But at this stage, when we landed, I was then working with the 3 geologists, another geophysicist, had to work in with the summer OIC, officer in charge. Mm-hmm. The weatherman played a big part in what we did.
Yep.
Mount King consisted of, there was a row of caravans and park holes where you had, sort of like a mini rec area. And then there was another row of tents for people to actually sleep in.
Okay. Oh, so
some of the caravans were quarters, and I was actually in one of them.
Yep.
And others were sleeping in the tents.
What's the temperature out like at this time of year now? In inland?
Inland, it's can be 10 to 20 degrees colder than the coast.
Yeah.
Being summer helped a bit, but what would it be? It'd probably be about -10, maybe getting down to -15 on a normal day.
So that's pretty normal for you lot.
There wasn't any worry.
Characters.
There wasn't any worry for us who had been down for the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose that new crew that came in, that would have taken a bit more time to acclimatise.
Yeah. Well, acclimatisation wasn't that much of a problem because everybody had the right clothes on. That's the key to it all.
Let's get into some routine down at Mount King.
Well, where the day would start, you'd go down and get the weather report.
Yep.
You'd gauge the day, what you're going to do. That was the very first thing.
Mm.
And then we had one of the geologists was in charge of the Bureau of Mineral Resource crew.
Yep.
And then he would say, right, we'll go to that place or that place. The night before, I've already packed all my gear, which was more than everybody else's, in one of the chopters. Off we go to the designated location. First thing they go to my station, dump me off.
Yeah, because you got all the big tripods and everything else.
And I stayed there for the whole. Generally, it was the day, and the geologists would then go flitting around along with the other geophysicists to all the mountains all around the place.
Right.
And in this area of Enderby Land, there were lots of mountains.
And I think that refers back to one of our other adventures that you talked about before, where you were stuck on the side of one of the mountains, wasn't it?
That was a whole other story,
Yeah.
covered in another podcast.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So please look at that in the details below. Okay, so that was your routine for the next couple of weeks. You'd be off to these places, do your measurements. The geophysicist, the geologist would be off somewhere else, and then you'd move to another location.
Yes.
Having a few adventures on the way, but coming back to Mount King to reset for the next one.
Generally.
Yeah.
Occasionally they would not take me back to Mount King. They'd leave me somewhere and come the next day, me to the next place.
Okay, all right.
I'll tell you what, you didn't get much darkness at that time.
But you're out camping in the wilderness.
Yes, when that happened, you're out camping. There's someone with me, because they didn't leave you overnight on your own.
Yeah.
Occasionally they might leave me on my own for half a day at a location.
Yeah.
But most of the time there's always someone with me.
And you'd have radio skids to check in.
Yes, and normally the other person would handle the radio while I did all my reading.
Do we have any animal life at all in this sort of area? I know it's away from the coast. Is there anything else out there?
No.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing to realise. There is nothing else out there at all.
The only life was lichens and mosses on some of the mountains.
Yeah.
That was it.
You've seen on the coast where you've got the Oster rookery and things like that. That once you go into the interior, there's not nothing.
That's right. That's the Antarctic. Massive area, twice the size of Australia, with no life apart from stuff we take.
Okay, so that's the routine at Mount Cook.
King.
Sorry, Mount.
He's not a Kiwi either.
No. G'day. Okay, so this process was about a month or a month and a half long.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. Okay, month and a half. Didn't the actual summer work continue on after that 5 weeks, or was it that intense? It's 5 weeks full on, and that's it.
That's pretty much it. There might have, when I was flown out,
Yeah.
it might have gone for a matter of days afterwards. The season comes and it goes.
Wow. Yeah, but it's just so short.
Yep.
And then 5 weeks of intense work, and it's all over.
Everybody gets flown back to Mawson.
Do they shut down the base, or just sort of
Mount King gets shut
down, closed off, sealed up? Probably a couple of big flags there to make sure that they can find it again when.
Well, it's pretty established. You had Mount King, the actual mountain, not that far away. In between that and Mount King Base was another one, a smaller one called Seavers Ridge, which. It's a pretty good marker of where Mount King Base was. And the tents would all get packed up and take back.
Yeah.
But a lot of the caravans actually stayed there because they were going to continue with the summer survey work the following year.
Yeah, keep going.
If there wasn't going to be in the same location, they would probably have to pack up everything and take it away.
Because the base is not there anymore, is it?
No, it wouldn't be there now.
So, you head back to Mawson. Do you fly in a chopper or in a plane or you walk?
We flew back in this case in the Pilatus Porter fixed wing plane.
Yeah, so that's a sort of a smoother ride in a sense, isn't it?
A little bit quicker. It
it?
cruised quicker.
Oh, okay.
The Porter cruised at around 110. The choppers cruised at about 90 knots.
So you get a nice bird's eye view of Mawson. Did it sort of feel like you were coming home?
It felt very much like we were coming home.
Yeah.
And to me, at that stage, and this is one of the conflicting things, Mawson was home.
Yeah.
And I was really pleased to see it. And, you know, as we were coming in, I asked the chopper pilot, could you go over
the
top?
Pilatus Porter's pilot.
All right. I said, yeah.
Got him.
Yeah, edit that bit out too.
Yeah, because it makes him look...
As we're coming in the Pilatus Porter, I asked the pilot to circle the base so I could get some aerial shots. One of them in particular was looking straight down on the base. So that was great. And then we went to our airstrip, which was about a mile inland, called Guam. Don't ask me why.
Now, you've got skids on the plane?
Yes.
I'm sure it's still a bumpy landing, though, isn't it?
But the landing doesn't take long because, as you know, the Pilatus Porter can just about land on threepence.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
And then you just get in a truck or whatever you call it.
They come up with a snow track and we all jump on it and back to base.
Do you find your old cabin, or do you just sort of realise, I'm just got to find some other digs now?
Somebody was sleeping in my bed.
I mean, that's literally it, isn't it? Somebody's sleeping in, and you go, but yeah. And then you sort of realise you've got to find a bunk somewhere.
That's exactly it. That's where we're at. So, yeah, half of the crew that I've been spending the last year with was still there.
Yeah.
And the rest were all
newbies,
except those that I'd been spending the last 5 weeks with out at Mount King.
Yeah.
But it was a great time. There was activity. The boat had gone back to Fremantle, come back.
Yes.
The ice had all gone.
Right.
So the boat there was the boat in Horseshoe Harbour.
What? It's getting closer now. I'm nearly there. I'm nearly on that boat.
Well, that's right. When you saw this site, you say, yeah, that which I'd having dreams about all year.
It's here.
It's coming.
Is that a bit of trepidation too, because you know how horrific that trip is across the filthy 50s and the roaring 40s. You sit thinking, not looking forward to that, right?
I wasn't. But there were people, and Gloom was one of them, who was looking forward to it even less. Those who had no sea legs whatsoever and didn't develop it.
Yeah.
They were the ones who really suffered. Most were like me. Couple of days of feeling crook and then you get your sea legs.
Yeah.
There are other lucky swine who didn't have a worry at all. They were fine from day one.
And the irony of the whole thing is you're not going straight back.
Well, first there was a changeover period.
That's
now
right.
this was a really good time. The old wintering crew had no responsibilities, so it was all to help out, which we all did. It was all voluntary, so that was great. And of course there was stuff we had to tend to ourselves, all our own personal stuff, and I had to all my records for the year, everything that had to be packed up. You had to help Kevin sort out the new stuff that came in, photographic paper and developers and all this, make sure we had everything we needed.
It was quite a logistics thing just for your operation, isn't it? Whereas now, it's just on the computer.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, you send it up to the satellite and bang.
That's right. Everything's changed from those days dramatically.
Yeah.
So that was a good time. And then initially I found a bunk. I think I probably had to share it with someone else in a caravan somewhere on the base. But then I thought, hang on a sec. There's been during the year we built a new science building that was unoccupied.
Yeah.
I had a mattress sitting in my office. So I thought, I'll drag that mattress up to the new science building.
So it's not your office anymore?
Okay. In the office.
Yep.
The Geo Hut.
Yep.
Dragged the mattress up to the new science building, plonked it in the room that was going to be the new Geo office, and I had the whole place to myself. This was great. And I had a window that looked out over the harbour, and you just look out and there was the boat sitting there. It looked fantastic at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was set. That was a great week.
Did you actually crave that sort of seclusion?
I was in my element.
Yeah.
Then, after a few days, other people saw what I'd done. I thought, that's
You
a good idea.
bastard.
Next minute, you know.
You got 6 or 7 people in the same place.
However, there was a lot of rooms in that building,
Yeah.
so they just pick another one. So we all had our own individual bedroom.
That's all right then. How are you feeling about the dogs at this time? I just popped in my head going, you know, we have a lot of experiences through this podcast series about your relationship with the dogs, the fights and the carryings on.
That was part of the nostalgic feel. And of course, you get home, you settle in, and then you go up to the dog line and say hello to the dog.
And they go, who are you? Who are you? I haven't
probably.
seen you for a week.
It was sad to say goodbye to them. There are a lot of, by now, the pups that were bred during the year were coming into
Oh yeah, that's
their
right, because
own.
we got a whole story.
Yeah, they were just getting to the stage where they could actually start being working dogs.
Mm.
So yeah, everything was changing, even in the dog environment.
So did the Lars would be going back with you lot?
Yes.
So he wouldn't stay there for a couple of years just to establish that team?
Nobody did.
Wow, that's what I'm saying. That's a tough
Yeah.
one. I suppose that'd be pretty hard for him because he'd invested a lot in that team very quickly
Yeah.
to really get them into a good shape.
Oh, he's a Dane. He didn't care.
Lars
Lars might see this.
might do too. All right, so the day of reckoning, the day you get on the lark. Would you get on the lark and just drive out to the boat
Mm-hmm.
and then scramble up the side, then
Yes.
crane up all your gear?
You got it.
You rush up in to find another bunk that you can occupy.
Yes.
Is it like a D-Day?
Yes, there was a
The
D-Day.
whistle, whee!
Yeah, and the day came, they said, right, everybody out. If you saw the rag trade many years ago.
No. Everybody out.
Everybody out. Anyway, so yeah, that day came, we piled on a couple of larks, did some trips out, got on the boat, and this is where it really started to bite. Life was really starting to change.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we were about to head off home, we thought.
Now, how stable are the larks? Just a thought, because I've been doing some research on them. You know, they're a big vehicle,
They're big.
and you sit there to run into the water, and then they're quite bouncy or they're quite stable.
They were stable there because there's
Yeah,
no
well,
swell. I don't know what they'd be like in rough seas, but
Yeah.
they were fine in that environment.
Anyway, I digressed again.
Again.
Okay, so we're on the ship. You found your bunk. Who are you bunking with? Do you know? Do you remember?
We were in a back one, right at the back of the boat.
Oh.
I think Gloom might have been there. I think there was 4 of us, if I remember right, crammed into that little room.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly spacious on the little Nella Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary how small that is in terms of tonnage, and yet how much stuff, because everything pretty much has to go back on it. Because that's the
right.
last trip, isn't it? That's the last trip
Yeah.
back.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, everything's loaded that had to be loaded, and the boat is ready to go, except
Oh, yeah, there's always an exception.
the weather.
Oh, the weather.
Yes. The day we were going to go, the weather closed in, and because Horseshoe Harbour is a very confined space, there was, in a heavy wind, there's no way they were going to try and move that boat.
So it's actually secured by lines all around, isn't it?
All around. The boat is very securely tied down because I'd say about 270 degrees surrounded by rock. If you untethered it at that stage, anything could happen.
So you're stuck on the ship for how many days?
3 days, the weather closed in, and we sat there, and I just stared.
No.
There was no seasickness there. There was homesickness.
Yes.
Homesickness for Mawson, would you believe?
Yeah.
That was what I experienced. And I thought, I wish I could just hop on a lark and go back and spend the time there until the boat's ready to go.
Yeah.
But alas, not to be.
So was it the day came? It was a glorious day.
That's right. That's
Glorious.
exactly what happened. Glorious day.
Yeah.
It was just like the day a year earlier when the boat left. It was quite uncanny. And so it became the routine of getting that boat out of there. And that's a whole operation.
Yeah, because I suppose you've got the larks there. You can actually use them like tugs, couldn't you? Almost.
You could, but I don't think it was necessary because they had a routine.
Yeah.
The boat actually had to pivot on the spot.
Yeah.
And they had a way of disconnecting each bollard around the shore to
Yeah.
enable that to happen.
Yeah.
because a year earlier we were the ones manning the bollards on the shore, and a signal would come to say,
Let's slack the line,
let it throw it off the bollard,
Yeah.
and then it would be winched back onto the boat. So that was a routine. And on the boat side, you watch the bow slowly turn, and it looked like the base was actually moving.
And apparently you have some very weird rituals that you have to do as you're leaving the base. Is that correct?
There is 2 in particular.
2
Yes.
that we actually get told about. The lark?
Okay, the first one, yeah, was when we went out to the boat 3 days earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tradition on the base. You would collect through the year all sorts of rotten fruit and food,
Which was frozen solid, I suppose. But
yeah,
now that it's warmed up a bit.
yeah, it's all thawed. And I think on the Nella they'd done a bit of that as well.
Mm.
So of course, what do? You have a war, don't you?
Of course. It's
You're a
us
bit-
versus them.
Yeah, you're a bit at disadvantage. The people, those crazy Danes manning the boat, thought
Those
they had
crazy
the advantage
Danes,
because they thought, we'll catch them by surprise. But we knew we were armed ourselves. Disadvantage because we had to hurl it up. Anyway, so it was a big all-on war. Nobody was hurt. My camera got covered in gunge.
It must be from very off fruit and veg.
Yeah.
So you
So
would
it
have
was
clambered onto the boat, looking like a bunch of
Yes.
slinky, slipey. bleh.
We were slimy. The other one, this was a tradition, don't know if it, probably not nowadays, where they would get every bit of explosive and a bunch of ATK, which was the
Gasoline.
aviation
Gasoline.
fuel, highly explosive, volatile stuff. They bind it all together.
Would they set
And
a
it's-
charge to just run the hell away, or just set a long charge and keep?
You would not want to, yeah, well, they'd have some way, I can't remember, to remote set it off, because you wouldn't want to
No.
be anywhere near it, because
The
it went
heat.
off with a bang.
Bang.
Great big bang, and this great big mushroom flame goes shooting up into the air. So that was the second ritual, as we were steaming out to home, except we weren't going home at that stage.
Okay, so you sort of go out and go, aren't we going left now? No, right, I mean? No, we're going the other way.
No, we were going the right way.
Okay.
We turned right, which was east.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Because our next target was east of us,
Yes.
called
Mount.
Gausberg.
It's not called Mount Gauss, but it's just called Gauss.
It's just called Gausberg.
But it is a volcano, isn't it?
It is a near extinct volcano. I don't know if there's any life left in it, but it's pretty much extinct now.
Yeah.
And that was our next target.
So that's how many days sailing?
I think we were, was it 4 or 5 days sailing to get to Gausberg?
Now, I did some research. I was watching a program, and there's some serious currents that flow along the 40s and the 50s along the Antarctic coast. And I was just wondering if they sort of get out far enough, they'd catch it and zoom along to Gausberg.
I don't think so.
Because it's going that way. I think.
All they had to do was get out beyond the pack ice, or beyond most of the pack ice.
I think. Zoom along.
And then zoom along to and then they'd have to weave their way back through the pack ice to get.
Oh, okay. You have to steam back in again.
Yes.
So how was it just out to the pack ice? Was it quite calm, or was it starting to get a bit?
It wasn't too bad from memory.
Yeah.
Because just beyond the pack ice, the swell still isn't that bad.
Yeah. It sort of was a tranquil.
Yeah.
Clean.
And of course, when you're in the pack ice, it's quite magical.
Yeah. It's loud as well.
It can be crunch, crunch, crunch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because so you could see the volcano from the out to sea. You sort of see it, and then you
Yes.
start screaming into it. Did you take choppers in, or did you just sort of drive in as far as you could, and then?
Yeah, went in as far as you could, which is just off the coast.
Yeah.
And then the choppers flew us in to a sort of a platform area at the base of the mountain.
Mm.
And we've devoted, as you know, a whole podcast to this.
Yeah.
So I did magnetic readings, climbed to the top.
Yeah. Scramble to the top.
Well, yeah, found historic
The
documents
cane,
up there.
the historic cane. Is it cane?
No, it was
cairn?
a can.
A can.
Rock can. We added a scroll and put it in a canister and left it there. We also took the original one, put in a new canister because the old one was dated back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Back when it was part of Mawson's Western Party.
Just to bring you back to the scroll. I mean, when you didn't think you were going to have to do a scroll up on the top of a mountain. Where did you get the piece of paper from?
There was rumours that this document was up there, so I thought if it's there, we had a new canister. And
so you prepared for it?
We were prepared.
Okay.
It had been visited a number of years before by the Russians. They had left a document as well.
Yeah. And how ironic is it? We're talking something that was 50 years ago nearly now. Yours is a historic document then.
It probably might.
And they'll see, go, whoa, who's this? Did you have to sign it with your name?
Yes, we all signed it.
So there's Phil Walter,
yes,
blah, blah, blah.
we all signed it.
Wow, so it's like, you could find that, somebody else in another 50 years of finding go, woo.
I'm presuming it's still up there.
Yeah. So, you did the Gaussberg. Yeah, you fell down the cliff. Yeah, you nearly broke your leg.
And didn't.
Yeah. You dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and then get back on the chopper to fly back to the ship.
That's correct.
The ship starts up, and we're going, right, now where are we going? Home. To Melbourne.
That's correct.
Right, we're going to Melbourne, right?
And here, whatever changes in life happen, they accelerate from this point.
Yeah, because it's coming. It's coming now.
Yes.